Chapter 213. Only after Yang Kai left did Ling Tai Su's expression gradually become dignified. Although Yang Kai's violent aura was not a hindrance to him, Ling Tai Su had no choice but to consider a deeper level. After thinking for a long time, Ling Tai Su let out a long sigh. Could it be that this little brat wants to use slaughter to prove his martial Dao? The bloodthirsty and violent aura that made him feel uneasy had already penetrated deep into Yang Kai's bones. In the future, if he wanted to pry into the true essence of martial Dao, there were only two ways. One was to eliminate this aura and change to a more peaceful secret art. However, Yang Kai was congenitally deficient, and it was not easy for him to achieve today's achievements. If he changed his secret art and became ordinary again, how could he bear it? Forever standing at the bottom and unable to see the top was one thing. But once a person stood at the top and suddenly fell to the bottom, no one could bear such a blow. If he couldn't change his secret art, then he could only display his bloodthirsty and violent aura to the extreme, growing stronger as his strength grew. Only then could he pry into the mysteries of martial Dao. One was to destroy and then establish. One could not be established without destruction. The other was to enter the Dao through slaughter. The future was full of obstacles, and the slightest carelessness could lead to a tragic end. Since ancient times, very few people who entered the martial Dao through slaughter had a good ending. Because those who entered the Dao through slaughter would always have more enemies than friends, and it was more likely that they would lose themselves in slaughter and become the demon race. He was just a child. Could he persevere? After leaving the sect master's place, Yang Kai returned to his cave mansion and took out the pills Xianxia had refined for him, swallowing them to improve his strength. The dust-covered incense burner was also taken out again, burning a strange incense that suppressed the circulation of his true Yang secret art. For the next 10 days or so, Yang Kai remained in seclusion in his secluded cave mansion, firstly to consume pills and secondly to nourish the two artifacts he had just refined. The Azura sword had played a great role in his battle with Bai Yunfeng, and although he hadn't used the 1000-blossoming blood begonia, since it was also a sect-guarding artifact of a first-class sect in the Endless Sea Islands, the power of the 1000-blossoming blood begonia would certainly not be lacking. Every day, when the sun rose from the east, Yang Kai would practice the unyielding golden skeleton. Now that his strength had increased and his physical fitness had increased, his progress in practicing the unyielding golden skeleton had also increased by a large margin. He had almost completed 1/3 of the way, but the further he progressed, the more difficult it became. Every time he performed a move, the bones in his body would explode like beans. The Immortal's cave was quiet and serene. It was indeed a good place for closed-door meditation. Xianxia, the little senior sister, would occasionally come over and bring some delicious food to share with Yang Kai. When they were bored, the two of them would also chat. Occasionally, Xianxia would take a nap on the stone bed. Whenever this happened, no matter how Yang Kai tried to wake her up, he would not be able to do so. On this day, while Yang Kai was cultivating, he suddenly heard the sect master's voice. "Do you know how to kill?" When the voice suddenly appeared, Yang Kai was startled and reflexively jumped up from his seat. After recalling that it was Ling Tai Su's voice, he understood that it was just a false alarm. "Grand Master!" Yang Kai looked around but couldn't find Ling Tai Su's figure. However, he was keenly aware of a divine sense wandering around him. Ling Tai Su asked again. Only then did Kai Yang reply, "Yes." "What kind of people deserve to be killed?" Yang Kai furrowed his brow and pondered for a moment. "Those who plot against me, kill them. Those who harm my friends and family, kill them. Those who hinder my cultivation, kill them. Those who steal my treasures, kill them. If people don't provoke me, I won't kill them." Yang Kai didn't know if Ling Tai Su heard him or not, but after Yang Kai finished answering, he remained silent for a long time. It wasn't until half a day later that Ling Tai Su said, "Prepare yourself, in half a month I'll take you to a place." Yang Kai didn't ask any more questions, but he could faintly guess that Ling Tai Su seemed to have some kind of plan, and one that was quite difficult to choose. Otherwise, after answering that question, he wouldn't have remained silent for so long. After thinking about it for a moment, Yang Kai didn't think too much about it. Ling Tai Su was his grandmaster, and his strength was profound. If he really wanted to harm him, he would have already taken action. Half a month was neither too long nor too short, so Yang Kai was more and more diligent in cultivating and swallowing pills. Time passed quickly, and half a month passed in a flash. During this half a month, Su Yen came to visit him one night, and the two of them engaged in a fierce battle for a long time, after which they diligently dual cultivated. The benefits of dual cultivation were now obvious to Yang Kai. The yuan qi in his body was becoming purer and purer, not yet reaching the yuan qi boundary, but not inferior to the yuan qi of an ordinary yuan qi cultivator. Otherwise, when he fought with Bai Yunfeng that day, his palm blade wouldn't have been able to break through his heaven's net. Whether it was Yang Kai or Su Yen, both of them were diligent in dual cultivating, and although they didn't do it many times, the quality was frighteningly high. Half a month later, Yang Kai had also swallowed all the pills refined by Xianxia. Not only that, while meditating in the coiling dragon stream, he had also accumulated some yang liquid in his dantian, allowing him to break through to the separation and reunion boundary third stage. At night, Yang Kai was meditating at the cave entrance when he heard the sound of clothes flapping in the wind, and soon after, two figures entered his cave mansion one after the other. Grand Master! Yang Kai stood up and saluted, looking at the other person and asking, Treasurer Meng? Meng Wuya laughed rhythmically, his old face scrunched up into a ball. Yang Kai frowned, not knowing what Meng Wuya was so happy about. Suddenly, Meng Wuya's smile disappeared, and he stared at Yang Kai in surprise, his eyes flashing as he slapped Yang Kai on the shoulder with one hand and the other on his dantian, angrily shouting, Get out of here for this old master. Ling Tai Su looked at Meng Wuya in surprise, obviously not understanding why he had suddenly attacked Yang Kai, but because he didn't notice Meng Wuya's murderous intent, he didn't try to stop him. Yang Kai let out a muffled groan, unable to move. A separation and reunion boundary third stage cultivator in front of an old monster like Meng Wuya was no different from a baby. A huge suction force suddenly appeared, and Yang Kai heard the old demon's cries of alarm and struggle. During the day, Yang Kai had summoned the old demon back, but even if he hid inside his body, he still couldn't escape Meng Wuya's eyes. Even sect master Ling Tai Su couldn't see through the secret, but in front of Meng Wuya, the difference in strength between the two could be seen at a glance. Meng Wuya's hand formed a claw, and like a dragon sucking in water, he fiercely pulled out a black qi, which was the old demon wrapped in the soul breaker all. Perceiving Meng Wuya's murderous intent, the old demon screamed in horror, the black qi tumbling over and over again, transforming into a ferocious face, but he still couldn't break free from Meng Wuya's grasp. Ling Tai Su paled. Treasurer Meng, please show mercy. Yang Kai hurriedly called out, fearing that Meng Wuya would kill the old demon on the spot. Meng Wuya looked at Yang Kai and quickly asked, Do you know what this is? The devil's soul. Yang Kai nodded. If you know, then you still dare to let him into your body. Aren't you afraid of being swallowed by him? Meng Wuya was stunned. He had thought that Yang Kai was just a young boy who didn't understand the situation and accidentally fell into the trap of the old demon's soul, but he didn't expect that Yang Kai knew better than anyone else. He can't swallow me, Yang Kai smiled bitterly. The old demon has already recognized me as his master, his life and death is in my hands. Recognized you as his master? This time Meng Wuya was shocked. Although he had pulled out the old demon's soul, he could still feel how powerful this person was when he was alive. Now he was just too weak to display his full strength, but if he could recover, then the entire High Heaven Pavilion wouldn't be able to withstand a single blow from him. How did he recognize you as his master? This was a matter of great importance, so Meng Wuya had no choice but to be cautious. Yang Kai quickly explained what had happened when the old demon recognized him as his master. After listening, Meng Wuya's expression changed and he nodded slightly. Good, so he is indeed under your control, you don't need to worry about him harming you. Release me quickly, this old master is loyal to the young master. This loyalty can be seen by the heavens, the sun and the moon. Why are you holding this old master in your hands, you little thing? If this old master was at his peak, how could you act so presumptuously? The old demon was a 10,000-year-old demon. He had been scared half to death just a moment ago, but now that there was no danger, he immediately became stubborn. Meng Wuya looked at him evilly and sneered, "If this old master was at his peak, how could you act so presumptuously?" Meng Wuya's words were exactly the same as what the old demon had just said, but if one thought about it carefully, the deeper meaning was quite different. The old demon was stunned and immediately lost his voice. "So you?" Meng Wuya coldly snorted and loosened his restraints. The old demon was like a mouse seeing a cat, quickly wrapping himself in a mass of black qi and rushing into Yang Kai's body, not daring to show himself again. Damn, this old master has been hiding so deeply, yet he still couldn't hide from this old bastard's investigation. This old bastard isn't as simple as he looks on the surface. During the whole process, Ling Tai Su had not made a sound, but now he opened his mouth and said, "Old demons can't be trusted easily, you must be careful. Disciple knows his limits." Yang Kai nodded. "Are you ready?" A few days ago, he had already greeted Su Yen and Xianing Chang, so there was nothing to prepare now. "Then let's go." Ling Tai Su stretched out his hand and grabbed Yang Kai, then flew out of the cave mansion and plunged downwards, Meng Wuya following closely behind. The wind whistled as they entered the bottomless coiling dragon stream. Yang Kai narrowed his eyes and looked down, but couldn't see anything. Grandmaster said that he was going to take him to the depths of the coiling dragon stream. No, he said that there were many dangers at the bottom, and even he wouldn't dare to rashly enter, so there was no way he would take him into danger. After falling a few hundred meters, Ling Tai Su suddenly changed direction and flew to the side. After flying for a while, he finally stopped. In the dark night, Ling Tai Su and Meng Wuya stood in the air, staring at the stone wall in front of them. "Is this the place?" Meng Wuya asked. "N." Ling Tai Su nodded. "You and I will work together and pour in Yuan Qi. But I'll have to trouble you this time. Why are you being so polite? You're treating me like an outsider." Meng Wuya's mouth was wide open, revealing his molars. As long as he could send this little brat Yang Kai away, not to mention spending a trifling amount of Yuan Qi, this old master would even call him father. So when Meng Wuya heard that Ling Tai Su wanted him to help send Yang Kai to a certain place, old man Meng immediately agreed without hesitation. Chapter 214. "Let's begin," Ling Tai Su said in a low voice, then activated his Yuan Qi and pressed his palm against the stone wall in front of him. Meng Wuya pressed his palm against the other side and also activated his Yuan Qi. The Yuan Qi of the two-peak Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters was like a flood that broke through a dam, fiercely pouring into the stone wall in front of them. The seemingly ordinary stone wall seemed to have turned into a bottomless pit at this moment. The Yuan Qi poured into it and disappeared without even making a ripple. Kai Yang watched from the side, silent, but in fact, his heart was also filled with monstrous waves. There must be some kind of profound mystery in this stone wall. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so strange. Moreover, this stone wall was under the coiling dragon stream, so it might be related to the stream. After a cup of tea's worth of time, both Ling Tai Su and Meng Wuya's foreheads began to sweat. They had been pouring out their Yuan Qi for such a long time, so it wasn't a small burden on them. "Brother Ling, did you remember the wrong place?" Meng Wuya frowned and asked. "It's here," Ling Tai Su said with certainty. After a while, the stone wall finally reacted. A layer of black ripples suddenly surged out from the ordinary stone wall, with one point as the center, quickly spreading in all directions. Ling Tai Su and Meng Wuya saw this and increased the output of their Yuan Qi. The ripples grew larger and larger, more and more violent, as if pebbles were continuously being thrown into a calm lake. In the end, the layers of ripples actually surged out one after another, causing the stone wall in front of him to look extremely strange. It shook so much that it made them dizzy. Meng Wuya's eyes lit up. He exclaimed, "It really is the void corridor that connects the two places. Brother Ling, the strength of your High Heaven Pavilion's founder is extraordinary." Ling Tai Su smiled slightly and suddenly withdrew his hand. Meng Wuya also hurriedly retreated. Although the two of them had stopped, the changes on the stone wall in front of them didn't stop. Instead, they became more and more violent. After a while, the layers of ripples actually became solid, spinning and spreading outwards. Suddenly, a black hole appeared on the stone wall. Looking at this hole that appeared out of nowhere, Yang Kai felt as if his soul was about to be sucked in, and couldn't help but feel a little dizzy. Meng Wuya looked at him with a smile, gently patting Yang Kai's shoulder, his face full of sincerity and reluctance. He said in a deep voice, "Little Yang Kai, you must take care of yourself." Yang Kai couldn't help but frown. Treasurer Meng was too affectionate today. "When I'm not here, I hope that Brother Wuya can take care of High Heaven Pavilion." Ling Tai Su exhorted before leading Kai Yang into the black hole in front of him. Before entering, Yang Kai glanced back and saw Meng Wuya standing in the air, his smile more beautiful than a flower, waving his hand at him in a very friendly manner. After Ling Tai Su and Kai Yang's figures disappeared, the black hole on the stone wall suddenly disappeared and returned to its original appearance. Wiping the sweat from his forehead, Meng Wuya stood in place for a long time before laughing loudly to the sky. Ha ha ha! His laughter shook the heavens and earth, waking up countless High Heaven Pavilion disciples who were sleeping and meditating. They couldn't help but shiver. The heavens had mercy on that smelly brat and sent him far away. Now there was no one to disturb his precious disciple's heart. And he just didn't know how long it would take for him to come back. Wouldn't it take at least 1 to 2 hours? After such a long time, perhaps his precious disciple would forget about him. Without this burden, his disciple would be able to cultivate quickly and grow up without any worries. Thinking of this, Meng Wuya laughed again. After Ling Tai Su entered the black hole, everything around them was chaotic, but it only took 3 breaths of time. Yang Kai felt his vision blur, and then he and his Grand Master appeared in a strange land. Ling Tai Su looked around, and then quickly flew in a certain direction. Not long after, he found a place to hide and put Yang Kai down, saying, "Protect me, I need to recover for a while." Yang Kai nodded, guessing in his heart that his Grand Master had not been able to endure the torment just now. Ling Tai Su took out a pill and swallowed it before sitting down and meditating for about 2 hours before standing up, picking up Yang Kai and flying forward without hesitation. Flying with someone carrying him was completely different from flying on your own. Ling Tai Su used his Yuan Qi to protect Yang Kai, so he didn't feel the wind at all. "Grand Master, what is that black hole under the coiling dragon stream?" Yang Kai was full of questions. It was left behind by the ancestral founder. It is a void corridor that connects the 2 ends of the world. With that place, one can easily cross from High Heaven Pavilion to another place. As for the specifics, I don't know. After all, compared to the ancestral founder, my strength is too insignificant. How far did we cross just now? Yang Kai was shocked, never having thought that there would be such a wonderful thing as a void corridor in this world. About 10,000 kilometers. Ling Tai Su's voice was flat. Yang Kai sucked in a breath of cold air. From the time Ling Tai Su and Meng Wuya poured their Yuan Qi into the stone wall until the time they left, only half an hour had passed, yet in just half an hour they had traveled 10,000 kilometers. This kind of thing was simply too incredible, like a dream. Yang Kai's psychological quality was also quite good. After all, he had experienced great changes, so after a moment of shock, he quickly calmed himself down. "Aren't you going to ask me where I'm taking you?" Ling Tai Su glanced at him. "If Grand Master wants to tell me, he will naturally tell me. In any case, it won't be bad for me." "You're quite optimistic." Ling Tai Su smiled bitterly, his eyes becoming deep as he slowly said, "The place I want to send you to is a land of slaughter. There, you don't need any reason or excuse to kill. The strong are respected and the weak are prey to the strong. This is a place where the law of the jungle is played out vividly. You must be mentally prepared." Yang Kai was surprised. "What are we going to do there?" "Cultivate, become stronger, and pry into the true meaning of martial arts." Ling Tai Su took a deep breath. "If you don't want to go, I can take you back now." "Of course I'm going." Yang Kai was excited when he heard about cultivating and becoming stronger. The desire for strength was something every cultivator had. Only by becoming stronger could one not be humiliated and bullied, and only by becoming stronger could one go further on the path of martial arts and live a good life. Even if your life is in danger at all times, you still want to go? Ling Tai Su's mouth showed a gratified smile. Of course I'm going. Ha! You're really different from Big Brother. In the past, I also asked Big Brother this question. Can you guess what he said? Yang Kai thought for a moment, then imitated the expression and tone of the fourth Master Yang, and said with a sincere face, I don't want to kill people, I'm not going. Ling Tai Su was stunned for a moment, then immediately laughed, not a single word wrong. It is said that no one knows a son better than his father. It seems the reverse is also true. If you don't want to kill, you will only be harmed in the end. You young family members are all like wolves, tigers, leopards. If you don't become strong, even if you return to the Yang family, you will only be bullied. Yang Kai's current aura was bloody and violent. If he did not have enough strength to protect himself and his family, if he was bullied in the future, he would not be able to resist and would be affected by that aura. Instead of falling into the path of evil and becoming a public enemy in the future, it was better to go all out now. Big Brother, oh Big Brother, don't blame this old master for being ruthless and taking him away without telling you, because with your temperament, I'm afraid you won't agree. Grand Master, where are we going? Yang Kai asked with a smile. Not us, just you, I'm only responsible for sending you there. You should have heard of that place, Netherworld Mountain. The smile on Yang Kai's face suddenly stiffened and his face couldn't help twitching, hesitating for a long time before asking, Grand Master, the Netherworld Mountain you speak of, is it that Netherworld Mountain? Exactly. Yang Kai's face twitched even more. Netherworld Mountain was almost famous in the world. It was notorious because it was a forbidden area for any cultivator. Those who stepped in died, and no one had ever been able to escape from the forbidden area alive. Of course, this was just a rumor that exaggerated the danger of Netherworld Mountain, but it was undeniable that Netherworld Mountain was indeed dangerous. Compared to High Heaven Pavilion's Black Wind Mountain Range, it was more than 10 times more dangerous. In Black Wind Mountain Range, an ordinary Yuan Qi cultivator could travel unimpeded, unless they were unlucky and ran into a particularly ferocious monster beast. But in Netherworld Mountain, even an immortal Ascension Boundary Master would find it difficult to survive. The difference between the two could be seen. It was precisely because of this danger that it was called a forbidden area, and there was only one such forbidden area in the entire Great Han Dynasty. However, the world was vast, and there were many other forbidden zones like Netherworld Mountain. Yang Kai had once heard that in the Tianlang Dynasty, which was adjacent to the Great Han Dynasty, there was a forbidden zone called the Abandoned Earth. All kinds of dangers were on par with Netherworld Mountain, perhaps even greater. In the forbidden area, strange fierce beasts could be found everywhere, and in the jungle there were many unknown dangers. Going there was simply courting death. But Yang Kai guessed that Ling Tai Su had his own plans, so although his expression changed slightly, he didn't lose his composure. Sure enough, Ling Tai Su seemed to be observing his reaction, and after a long time, he said with satisfaction, We won't go deep into Netherworld Mountain, only 500 li. There is a very strange place that is suitable for a cultivator like you to experience. What kind of place? Yang Kai asked. I can't explain it clearly. It's a very strange place. Back then, this old man was also brought there by my master to gain experience. That's why I know of the existence of that place. Back then I wanted to send your father there, but he refused. Many people know of the existence of that place, and now that the time has come, I'm afraid many people have already gone there in advance. Whether we can get a place is still uncertain. If we can go in smoothly, you must remember one thing. Everyone who appears there is an enemy. Never trust anyone. I know. You don't know. Ling Tai Su slowly shook his head, and his tone became more serious. That place is special, creating a situation where there are enemies everywhere. Let me tell you this, in that place, the Yuan Qi and blood essence of the people who are killed will condense into a blood bead, and this blood bead can be absorbed by anyone, increasing their strength without any worries. What? Yang Kai's expression changed abruptly. Chapter 215. Now you should understand why I said that you don't need any reason or excuse to kill someone there, right? The blood beads obtained after killing someone are the best excuse and reason. In that place, a life is only a cornerstone to becoming stronger, especially since you're only a separation and reunion boundary third stage cultivator. It's easier for others to target you. Ling Tai Su said in a deep voice. Yang Kai's face was filled with shock, but more than that, he was excited and pleasantly surprised. Ling Tai Su saw the expression on Yang Kai's face and couldn't help but sigh, thinking to himself that this little brat really wanted to prove his martial Dao through killing. If it were any other separation and reunion boundary third stage cultivator who heard this, they would likely flee in fear, but Yang Kai, on the other hand, was eager to try, wishing he could immediately run to that place and immerse himself in endless slaughter. In that place, there was no need to worry about harming the innocent. Even if Yang Kai didn't take the initiative to kill someone, there would still be someone who wanted to kill him. Moreover, there were many evil cultivators there, all of whom deserved to be killed. Along the way, Ling Tai Su told Yang Kai a lot of information about that place. After all, he had experienced it many years ago and had personal experience, all of which were invaluable treasures. Yang Kai listened very carefully, not daring to miss the slightest bit. According to Ling Tai Su, that place was located in Nether Mountain, but it didn't really belong to Nether Mountain. It was a very strange independent space, and the entrance was in a lake in Nether Mountain. Yang Kai didn't know what kind of strange energy and heaven and earth principles existed inside, but as long as a living thing died inside, its energy and flesh essence would condense into blood beads, including people and monster beast. These blood beads could be consumed by oneself or taken out for others to consume. They were very valuable. Moreover, the stronger the person or monster beast that died, the higher the value of the blood bead, and the greater the improvement it could bring to the person who died. In addition, in that place, all offensive and defensive artifacts had no effect at all and should have been sealed by some kind of invisible energy. Hearing this news, Yang Kai's heart couldn't help sinking. Yang Kai's current strength was only at the separation and reunion boundary third stage. Who knew how many masters of the Yuan Qi boundary would be there? Once he encountered these masters, if he didn't have the Azura sword or the thousand blossoming blood begonia to assist him, he would definitely fall into a disadvantageous position or even be killed. But when he thought of others, it was the same. Yang Kai couldn't help but feel better. That isolated world opened once every 10 years, and Yang Kai's luck this time was quite good. Just as he returned to High Heaven Pavilion, he managed to catch up with it. If he had come back a few months later, he would definitely have missed it. In the end, Ling Tai Su solemnly gave Yang Kai a small pouch. This pouch was about the size of a palm. There were many intricate patterns engraved on it. The material was strange, but it looked very delicate. What is this? Yang Kai asked, puzzled. I call it the Qianquan pouch. Don't be fooled by its small size. In fact, there are many things inside it. It can hold a full square meter of things. Yang Kai's expression changed again as he looked at Ling Tai Su in surprise. He didn't expect that this kind of legendary artifact was specially used to store things. Ling Tai Su actually had one. It was left behind by the ancestral founder. In the entire Great Han Dynasty, I'm afraid this is the only one. Even your central capital, 8 great families don't have one. Ling Tai Su said lightly. No, Meng Wuya might also have one. But that old thing hid all his treasures and didn't give it to anyone except his disciple. He was really stingy. There are some pills inside for you, use them sparingly, Ling Tai Su said. And, thank you, Grand Master. When I come back, I'll return this pouch to you. Yang Kai solemnly stuffed the small pouch into his bosom and tucked it close to his chest. This thing was really a supreme artifact. An artifact that could store things. The world had only heard rumors about it, but no one had ever seen it. However, Yang Kai had a wordless black book made from soul-suppressing stone inside his body. That thing could also be used to refine an artifact for storing things, and its grade was definitely much higher than a Qianquan pouch. However, Yang Kai was sitting on a mountain of treasures right now, but he didn't know how to use it. After flying forward for about a day, A deep mountain range filled with a strange aura appeared in front of Ling Tai Su and Yang Kai. Nether Mountain, the great Han dynasty's only forbidden area. A desolate and ancient aura washed over them. This forbidden area was like a giant dragon that had been here since ancient times, causing anyone who saw it to shudder. Arriving at the mountain, before they could even enter, 2 teams rushed out from both sides. 6 people came from the left. Yang Kai stared at them and found that all of them were women. These 6 people were led by an old woman, a beautiful woman, and the remaining 4 were young girls. The 4 young girls wore small bells on their hands and feet, and as they dashed forward, a clear and melodious tinkling sound rang out, like a mountain stream, refreshing one's senses. Moreover, this group of women were all extraordinarily beautiful. That beautiful woman was graceful and luxurious. Her figure was plump and full. Her jet black hair was coiled into a bun at the back of her head, revealing her fair and slender neck. Every part of her exuded a mature and gorgeous beauty. Especially her pair of eyes, they were like autumn waves that moved one's heartstrings and captivated one's soul. Those watery eyes seemed to be able to speak, causing the sky to turn blue and the flowers to become fragrant. The 4 young girls were even more beautiful. They were in the prime of their lives, and they were graceful as they walked over. Half of their tender arms were exposed, and all of them had snow-white skin. Their jade feet were small and delicate, and their delicate toes outlined a different kind of beauty. They were thin and round, and they smiled sweetly. They were either shy, beautiful, cold like ice, or passionate like fire. When the 4 of them hugged together, it was enough to make any man go crazy. Although the temperaments of these young girls were not as mature and seductive as the beautiful woman, they still had their own unique charm. As for the old woman, although she looked very old, it could be vaguely seen that she must have been quite beautiful when she was young, but the ruthless flowing time great emperor had left many indelible marks on her face. This group of people rushed up to Yang Kai and Ling Tai Su before stopping 300 meters in front of them. The old woman swept her eyes over the 2 of them and snorted lightly. Those who could come to Nether Mountain at this time obviously had the same purpose. There was a limited number of places to enter this strange space, so naturally, they were competitors. Ling Tai Su smiled at the old woman and whispered to Yang Kai, "They're from a first-class sect, 10,000 Flower Palace. Young people are full of youthful vigor. Be careful not to fall into the trap of these little girl, otherwise, they won't even spit out your bones." Yang Kai's eyes were shining as he sized up the 4 young girls with a critical gaze. Hearing Ling Tai Su's words, he immediately put on a serious expression. "Grand Master, rest assured I will be careful." A moment later, the people on the right also arrived. Looking around, Yang Kai saw that the leader was an old man about the same age as Ling Tai Su, and behind him were 3 young people, both men and women. All of them had extraordinary strength, but regardless of whether they were men or women, their temperaments were somewhat strange. The 2 young men were even more presumptuous than Yang Kai, their eyes almost glued to the female disciples of 10,000 Flower Palace. This caused the young girl beside them to be very unhappy. She couldn't help but snort. "These are people from Ghost King Valley." Ling Tai Su's expression sank. "You're in trouble." But Yang Kai was puzzled. "Because Grandmaster, I fought with that old man a few times in the past. This is an evil sect, so if you encounter them, you must be careful of their martial arts." Ling Tai Su replied. Yang Kai fixed his eyes and saw that the hands of the 3 people opposite him were a bit strange. Unlike ordinary people, their hands were gloomy and pale, like ghost claws. The old man on the opposite side suddenly sneered, "Ling Tai Su, you're not dead yet." Ling Tai Su snorted, "Gui Li, you're not dead either." Good. Gui Li grinned. This old master was worried that if you died, he wouldn't be able to find anyone to take revenge on. "I didn't expect to meet you here today. It's really the heavens taking pity on me." "What? Wasn't the lesson I taught you 50 years ago not enough? Today you want to take the initiative to die?" Ling Tai Su sneered. Without the slightest fear. Gui Li's expression was fierce. "What's the point of bringing up the past? 50 years ago, I lost to you. that doesn't mean that 50 years later it will still be the same. Do you want to try? Ling Tai Su smiled proudly. Gui Li's eyes were as gloomy as a ghost fire, glaring at Ling Tai Su with resentment and dread. As the two confronted each other, the three Ghost King Valley disciples behind Gui Li also glared at Yang Kai. Yang Kai just grinned at them, his expression unchanged. Peng. A sound rang out as the old woman from the 10,000 Flower Palace slammed her dragon head walking stick into the ground. If the two of you don't want to fight, why don't we discuss joining forces to enter Netherworld Mountain? The old woman looked at Ling Tai Su and Gui Li faintly. Although Ling Tai Su and Gui Li had grievances between them, they really didn't want to fight now. After all, they were both here for life experience. If they missed the right time, it would ruin their plans. The old woman was also a shrewd person, seeing that both of them needed a way out, so she made this suggestion. Gui Li grinned meaningfully. This old master will give Palace Master Yen face and won't bother with you today, but when this matter is over, Ling Tai Su, you and I will fight. Gui Li gloomily looked at Yang Kai, not showing any intention of avoiding him, turning to the three disciples beside him and saying, "Remember this little brat's appearance. When we enter, kill him." The three disciples coldly responded. Yang Kai's expression became cold as he secretly memorized the appearances of these three. With the mediation of the old woman from the 10,000 Flower Palace, Ling Tai Su and Gui Li temporarily put aside their grievances. The three of them briefly discussed for a while, with the old woman leading the way, the four girls following closely behind, and Gui Li in the middle, leading his three disciples. Yang Kai and Ling Tai Su would bring up the rear. As for the beautiful woman, she was also in a central position, but with Gui Li, one was on the left and one was on the right. With the protection of these four immortal ascension boundary masters, the younger generation of disciples could be said to be extremely safe. Of course, the premise was that Ling Tai Su and Gui Li didn't play any tricks on each other. Ling Tai Su naturally wouldn't be so vicious, but Gui Li was a different story. Because of this concern, the old woman had Ling Tai Su bring up the rear to prevent Gui Li from launching a sneak attack from behind. Fortunately, Gui Li was also a sensible person, so along the way, he didn't make any moves, only honestly guarding his position. Nether Mountain was notorious for its dangers, so when the group entered, they were all cautious, holding their breaths, because even in the outermost perimeter, there was a chance they would encounter a powerful 5th order or 6th order monster beast. The women from the 10,000 Flower Palace used some unknown method, but the bells on their wrists and ankles didn't make the slightest sound, so the group moved silently. Chapter 216. After walking for a short time, a rustling sound suddenly came from the front, as if something was rapidly approaching. The group of young disciples were all on high alert, but the four immortal ascension boundary masters remained calm. Schwa. A ferocious head suddenly rushed out of the jungle in front of them, opening its mouth wide to bite at the old woman leading the way. The head was about the size of a bamboo hat, and its two golden triangular eyes flashed with a cruel and gloomy light. It was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, it was in front of the old woman. The old woman lightly snorted, slightly lifting the crutch in her hand, and gently pointing it forward, hitting it in the middle of the head, and then lifting its chin. The huge head seemed to have been hit by a great force, and was directly swept to the side. Before it landed, the whole head suddenly burst open, and a cloud of blood filled the air. The middle-aged woman's figure flickered, and with a shake of her delicate hand, a colorful ribbon flew out from her wrist, like a snake coming out of its hole, and rolled up a monster core in the blood mist, then quickly returned. Golden-eyed silverback python. A peak 5th order monster beast. Ling Tai Su whispered to Yang Kai. Yang Kai fixed his eyes on the ground, and sure enough, saw a headless python corpse on the ground. On its back, there was a silver pattern, looking very strange. Everything just happened too fast, and before he could see clearly, the python was already dead, and even its monster core was taken away by the middle-aged woman. Peak 5th order was the peak of the Yuan Qi boundary. It was killed by this old woman in a single confrontation, and the strength of this old woman from 10,000 Flower Palace was tyrannical, probably on the same level as Ling Tai Su. Maybe even higher. After all, 10,000 Flower Palace was a first-class sect. Its influence was much larger than High Heaven Pavilion. Be careful, this thing is a social monster beast. Ling Tai Su warned again. Before his voice fell, a rustling sound came from all directions, and vaguely, many pairs of golden triangular eyes were staring at them from the jungle. They were quickly approaching. The old woman didn't stop, and just shouted, "Hurry up, once the smell of blood spreads, it will attract more monster beast." The group of people moved faster and faster. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Countless golden-eyed silverback pythons leaped up high from all directions, and they opened their bloody mouths as they attacked the group of people. The old woman's walking stick contained incomparable killing power. Often, with just a light tap, a large python would die on the spot. Ghost Li and the beautiful woman were in the middle, each using their own methods to protect their disciples. Ghost Li was indeed an evil cultivator. He activated his cultivation technique, and his black aura exuded a violent and bloody aura. He held a spear-shaped secret treasure in his hand and stabbed left and right, killing all the enemies that came to attack. The beautiful woman's strength was slightly inferior, but it was still easy for her to deal with the level 5 monster beast. As Feng Yun's body moved, it brought with it an intoxicating fragrance. The golden-eyed silverback pythons that rushed towards her were often killed by some inexplicable method before they could even get close. Ling Tai Su didn't use any kind of artifact. The moves were simple and unadorned, but they contained boundless power. The speed at which he killed the monster beast was comparable to that of the old woman. Blood and flesh splattered everywhere as one golden-eyed silverback python after another died. Wherever the group passed, it was as if the autumn wind swept away the fallen leaves, not meeting the slightest resistance. Ribbons flew out from the hands of the 4 girls from the myriad flower palace. They weren't going to fight the Yao beasts. Instead, they were going to use the ribbons to retrieve the Yao cores of the Yao beasts that had been killed. The 4 girls were senior sisters from the same sect, so they cooperated closely with each other. 3 of them worked together to blow up the monster beast's head, while the other girl swung her ribbon to collect the monster cores. The value of a level 5 monster beast's monster core was not low. The girls' actions made the 3 Ghost King Valley disciples envious, but they didn't have the same means as the girls, so they could only watch with envy. After the girls obtained the spoils of war, their delicate faces lit up with happy smiles, each of them more beautiful than a flower, and they all felt a little proud. Another golden-eyed silverback python attacked. Ghost Li shook the long spear in his hand and pierced it 7 inches, pouring his fierce yuan qi into it and killing it directly. With a flick of his spear, this golden-eyed silverback python actually flew towards the crowd. Obviously, Ghost Li wanted to let his disciples take advantage of this situation. However, whether it was intentional or not, this flick of his spear was a little too fierce, and the place where the golden-eyed silverback python fell was actually where Yang Kai was standing. Ling Tai Su's eyes flashed coldly, but he didn't try to stop him. With a swish, a male Ghost King Valley disciple rushed out from behind, a grin on his face, yuan qi surging from his big white hands like a sharp blade, cutting into the golden-eyed silverback python's huge head. This blow seemed to be aimed at obtaining the monster core, but in fact, it contained a lot of strength, enough to hit Yang Kai, who was standing at the back of the group. Yang Kai's expression was cold, and in that split second he noticed the other party's sinister attack, so naturally he wouldn't just sit still and wait for his death. Not wanting to confront him head-on, he simply stretched out his hands, grabbed the dead golden-eyed silverback python, and then threw it to the side with all his strength. The Ghost King Valley disciple who had been grinning ferociously a moment ago suddenly paled. Yang Kai's counterattack was beyond his expectations, and with a strange cry, both he and the golden-eyed silverback python were thrown more than a dozen meters away. However, his reaction was also quite fast, and while in midair, he quickly pulled back his big hands from the python's head and stamped his feet on the python's body, finally coming to a stop. Before he even landed, 2 giant pythons, which had been waiting for a long time, opened their bloody mouths and pounced towards him, their stench making him feel a little dizzy. His face was filled with horror, and his hair stood on end. Don't underestimate the 4 immortal Ascension Boundary Masters who could kill these giant pythons as if they were chickens or dogs. After all, the strength of the other party was obvious. If a Yuan Qi cultivator were to encounter one of these giant pythons, they would only end up dead. With the arrival of a crisis, the Ghost King Valley disciple could almost feel the aura of death. He hadn't expected that not only would his plot against Yang Kai fail, but he would also be thrown into such a dangerous situation. This was really a case of not only not harming others, but also harming himself. At this critical moment, Ghostly finally arrived, his long spear sweeping through the air, sending the 2 giant pythons flying. He then grabbed the disciple's shoulder and threw him to the side before quickly returning. In this moment of delay, the 4 female 10,000 Flower Palace disciples had almost been attacked by the giant pythons. If it weren't for the middle-aged beauty's quick reaction, these 4 girls might have really been injured. After Ghostly returned, the middle-aged beauty glared at him fiercely, hating that he had left the group and allowed her 10,000 Flower Palace disciples to be injured. Ghostly also knew that he was in the wrong and didn't dare to complain, just coldly glancing towards Yang Kai and Ling Tai-su. In this secret battle, the older generation consciously didn't intervene, but Yang Kai's quick response had caused the Ghost King Valley disciple to suffer a big loss, causing him to secretly bear a grudge and wait for an opportunity to wipe away this shame. Yang Kai didn't care. The other party's elders had clearly stated that they wanted to kill him, so why should he be polite to them? If he continued to be polite, it wouldn't be magnanimity, but weakness. After rushing forward for a long time, killing more than 20 golden-eyed silverback pythons, they finally left this dangerous place. This was only the outermost area of Netherworld Mountain, yet there was already such a crisis. It was obvious that the Forbidden Zone's name wasn't groundless. After a fierce battle, the older generation was somewhat exhausted. The old woman was still leading the way in front without saying a word. After running for about 100 miles, they found a relatively safe place to stop and rest. The older generation needed to maintain their vitality while the younger generation also needed to restore their physical strength. After stopping, the old woman from 10,000 Flower Palace snorted and coldly glared at Ghostly. What happened just now will only happen once. This old woman doesn't want to see it happen a second time. Otherwise, the 2 of you should enter on your own. My 10,000 Flower Palace doesn't want to be associated with people with ill intentions and risk their lives. Ghostly grinned meaningfully. Palace Master Yen can rest assured, it was just this old master's fault. Disciples' actions were a bit too fierce. It was just a misunderstanding. That's for the best. The old woman nodded faintly, walking to the side to meditate. Between the 3 sects, there was a certain distance between each other, all of them silent. A moment later, Yang Kai suddenly opened his eyes and saw the Ghost King Valley disciple who had tried to plot against him earlier walking towards him step by step. When he was about 10 meters away, this person stared coldly at Yang Kai and grinned. "My name is Jin Hao, you'd better scram as far away as you can now, otherwise I'll kill you without mercy." He spouted such arrogant words, completely ignoring Ling Tai-su who was sitting nearby. Ling Tai-su also didn't respond, simply closing his eyes and meditating. Yang Kai looked at him and suddenly chuckled. "Brother Jin, a dog that bites generally doesn't bark." "Poochie." A few chuckles came from the other side. It was the 4 girls from 10,000 Flower Palace who couldn't help but laugh. The middle-aged woman glared at them, causing the 4 girls to quickly purse their lips and pretend to meditate. Jin Hao coldly snorted, "Sharp tongue, you better pray you don't meet me inside." Saying so, he turned around and left. Looking at his back, Yang Kai's murderous intent filled his heart. These 3 from Ghost King Valley were destined to be enemies, but their strength was higher than his and they had the advantage in numbers. Once they encountered each other inside, it would likely be a fierce battle. After resting for a while, the old woman stood up and Ling Tai-su and Ghostly opened their eyes at the same time. With the same lineup as before, the group continued to move deeper into Netherworld Mountain. Along the way, they would often be attacked by monster beasts. Netherworld Mountain had a large number of monster beasts, and their ranks were irregular. Some were 3rd order, some were 4th order, and some were 5th order. They even encountered 2 6th order monster beasts. However, the two sixth-order monster beasts obviously knew that this group was not to be trifled with, so after following them for a while, they gave up. Compared to those who came to die, they were much more shrewd. After killing these monster beasts, the 4 girls from 10,000 Flower Palace reaped the most bountiful harvest, throwing out ribbons and obtaining monster cores. The 3 from Ghost King Valley also worked together with Ghostly to obtain monster cores, obtaining a lot of good things. Only Yang Kai was relatively poor. Along the way, he only obtained 2 fifth-order monster beast cores, and this was after Ling Tai Su deliberately threw the monster beast's corpse to him. But Kai Yang didn't care. His strength was the lowest, so the more ordinary he appeared, the less likely it would be for him to be targeted. Only by patiently hiding his strength and biding his time would he be able to avoid all kinds of dangers and slowly grow. Chapter 217. Normally, with the speed of this group of people, they would only need 4 hours to cover the short distance of 500 miles. An immortal ascension boundary master would not even need half an hour to fly. However, to travel 500 kilometers in Nether Mountain, it took them 2 full days to reach their destination. The dangers and attacks they encountered along the way were far beyond anyone's expectations. Palace Master Yen, your 10,000 Flower Palace sends people here every 10 years. Is it always this dangerous? During one of their breaks, Ling Tai Su asked. The last time he came here was 50 years ago, and although there were monster beasts blocking the way at that time, it was not as frequent as this time. The old woman pondered for a moment before replying, "No, I don't know why this time is like this. I'm afraid something has happened in Nether Mountain, causing some of the weaker monster beasts to be driven to the outskirts." Hearing her say this, Ling Tai Su and Ghostly both paled slightly. "It's not good to stay here for long, let's continue on our way." The old woman also noticed something was wrong and immediately suggested. The group once again set foot on the road, and after half a day, they finally arrived at their destination. In front of them was a huge lake, its water clear and sparkling, but the calm surface of the lake gave off a strange aura, causing Yang Kai to faintly feel a sense of unease. Gazing into the distance, he saw groups of people gathered at the edge of the lake. These people were the masters of the great Han Dynasty's various forces who had brought their disciples here to gain experience. There were many people, some were small, some were large, some were small, only 7 or 8 people, and some were small, only 3 or 4 people. These people were about 300 meters apart from each other, surrounding the edge of the lake. After seeing Ling Tai Su's group, all of them showed faint displeasure and vigilance. The old woman from 10,000 Flower Palace nodded slightly to Ling Tai Su, then led the beautiful woman and the 4 young girls towards the lake. The appearance of this group of women immediately attracted the gazes of countless young men. The young girls were used to this kind of scene, so they did not show much emotion, just obediently following behind the old woman, finding a place where no one was around to stop. Ghostly gave Ling Tai Su a sinister smile, then looked at Yang Kai meaningfully. Jin Hao coldly snorted and made a throat-slitting gesture at Yang Kai. Then, under Ghostly's lead, he walked in the opposite direction of the 10,000 Flower Palace people. "Let's also find a place," Ling Tai Su said, leading Yang Kai towards the lake. Most of the spots around the lake had already been occupied by the forces that had arrived first. Ling Tai Su and Yang Kai walked for a long time but still couldn't find a place to stay. However, every time he passed by a group of people, Ling Taishu would secretly transmit a message to him, telling him which force they belonged to, whether it was good or evil, the strength of the participating disciples, and what kind of sects he should be wary of. Yang Kai secretly remembered it in his heart, but his expression did not change. After circling around most of the lake, they finally found a place where no one had occupied it, causing Ling Tai Su to visibly breathe a sigh of relief. After stopping, the two sat down cross-legged and Ling Tai Su began to tell Yang Kai the details of the various forces around the lake. Yang Kai carefully memorized it all while secretly observing. The more he learned, the more Yang Kai became aware of the dangers of this life experience. These forces all belonged to the Great Han Dynasty. Most of them were first or second grade sects, but there were also some third grade sects. Each of them had at least 2 or 3 disciples, but Yang Kai was the only one who wanted to go in alone to experience the world. Ling Tai Su also wanted to bring 2 more people to accompany Yang Kai, but High Heaven Pavilion really did not have any good candidates. Su Yen was fine, but she cultivated Ice Heart's secret art, so killing too many people would not be beneficial to her. Xia Ning Chang was also fine, but she was Meng Wuya's disciple. Meng Wuya treated her like a treasure, so how could he be willing to let her take such a risk? As for Xie Hongchen, Ling Tai Su did not consider him at all. Bringing him here would only cause trouble for Yang Kai. The strength of these young people who had come to the lake was all higher than Yang Kai, at least separation and reunion boundary 7th or 8th stage masters, and Yuan Qi masters were everywhere. The central capital's 8 great families had not sent anyone, which was good news. Only Yuan Qi and Yuan Qi cultivators below can go in for life experience, so you don't have to worry about encountering an immortal ascension boundary master. With your strength, if you encounter an enemy at the Yuan Qi 2nd or 3rd stage, you should be able to deal with them, but if you encounter someone stronger, Grandmaster will only give you one advice: run. A man should be able to pick up and let go, don't blindly try to win. Picking up is strength, letting go is wisdom. I understand. Yang Kai nodded slightly. Remember, there is only one task in this place, and that is to survive. If you want to become stronger, you don't necessarily have to fight others. Hunting monster beast is also a way to become stronger. I estimate that there are many people with this idea. If there is someone you can really trust, you may as well join forces with them. This is also a way to survive. Grandmaster, look over there. Which sect are they from? Their dressing is quite strange. Yang Kai suddenly gestured towards the distance. Ling Tai Su looked over and couldn't help but wrinkle his brow as he saw a group of people. Whether it was their dressing or appearance, they were all slightly different from the others. As if they were aware of Ling Tai Su and Yang Kai's gazes, the group of people also turned around, their expressions cold and fierce, a strong sense of warning. They're not from the Great Han Dynasty. Ling Tai Su whispered, they're from the Tianlang Dynasty. The Tianlang Dynasty's people also came here? Yang Kai was stunned. The Tianlang Dynasty was adjacent to the Great Han Dynasty. Why would a sect from that place come all the way to this forbidden area? The Tianlang Dynasty's martial arts are fierce. It is said that most of the cultivators' methods are cruel, and they are not from our race. You must be careful if you encounter them. The strength of this group is not something you can resist. Their clothes are quite revealing. Yang Kai watched with great interest. There were 2 women in the Tianlang Dynasty group. Their figures were enchanting, their clothes were very thin, their arms were exposed, and their tight clothes could not hide their proud twin peaks, as if they were about to burst out. The clothes were very small, and when the 2 women moved, their flat bellies and delicate navels were exposed. Their beautiful bodies were faintly discernible, and their clothes only reached their knees, revealing their snow-white calves. Ling Tai Su helplessly shook his head. He still could not understand, how could such a simple and honest person like Boss give birth to a brat like Yang Kai? As time passed, more and more people came to the lakeside, and according to some kind of rule, all the people were separated from each other by a certain distance, quietly waiting. In less than a day, the lakeside was actually surrounded by a circle of people. The latecomers did not have a place to sit, so naturally they turned their eyes to the weaker people, and after a few words of disagreement, they began to fight. In just a short hour, 4 or 5 battles broke out, and the people of a small faction, whether it was the older generation or the younger generation who came to gain experience, were all slaughtered. The bloody and cruel scene did not attract anyone's attention. Since they dared to come here, they had to be prepared for conflict. Their skills were not as good as others and they were killed. They could not blame anyone. Fortunately, although Ling Tai Su and Yang Kai were only 2 people, they were not targeted by anyone, thus avoiding a lot of trouble. But good times did not last long. As more and more forces arrived, Ling Tai Su and Yang Kai were still noticed by some people. An old man about the same age as Ling Tai Su walked over with 2 young disciples, 1 male and 1 female, and stopped 10 feet in front of Ling Tai Su. Ling Tai Su sat cross-legged on the ground, looking at him with an indifferent expression. Yang Kai was secretly vigilant, but surprisingly he did not feel any hostility or murderous intent from this person. The old man in front of him hesitated for a moment before cupping his fists towards Ling Tai Su. This old man is reflecting Moon Sects Zhuo Wen. May I ask for your excellency's name? High Heaven Pavilion, Ling Tai Su. So it is Brother Ling. Zhuo Wen had obviously heard of High Heaven Pavilion, and after exchanging some pleasantries, he went straight to the point. Brother Ling, please forgive this old man for bringing his disciple all the way here. I didn't expect that so many forces would come to gain experience in this isolated land, causing us to have no place to sit. Ling Tai Su had brought Yang Kai directly across 10,000 kilometers to come here, so although he had set out late, he had still arrived early. This reflecting moon sects Zhuo Wen had set out a month ago, but the journey was long, and coupled with the difficulties of entering Netherworld Mountain, he had arrived 2 days later than Ling Tai Su. What advice does Brother Zhuo have for me? Since the other party had no malicious intent, Ling Tai Su naturally did not need to give him any face. Although he had guessed the other party's intentions, he still asked. Zhuo Wen laughed dryly and said, "This Zhuo would like to discuss something with Brother Ling. The lake crossing duckweed can carry 4 people at a time. This Zhuo sees that Brother Ling only has 1 disciple with him, so is it possible for this old man's 2 disciples to take a ride? Otherwise, this Zhuo would have come here for nothing, and would likely become a laughingstock when he returns, disappointing his 2 disciples." Ling Tai Su cast his eyes to the 2 young disciples behind Zhuo Wen. The 2 hurriedly stepped forward and the young man said, "Disciple Chen Shui Shu greets Senior Ling." The young woman said, "Disciple Su Xiao Yu greets Senior Ling." Both of them bowed respectfully, not showing the slightest dissatisfaction or arrogance. Ling Tai Su took note of their performance and nodded to himself. Reflecting Moon Sect was the same as High Heaven Pavilion, both second-class sects, and none of their disciples were evil. Moreover, this young man and woman both had gentle looks and didn't seem to be people who liked to fight. When he saw Ling Tai Su pondering, Zhuo Wen hurriedly said, "Don't worry, Brother Ling, these 2 disciples of mine have kind natures. They're going out to gain experience this time, and they're only going to hunt demon beasts and look for fortuitous encounters. They'll absolutely not do anything that's detrimental to the disciples of your sect." After saying so, he added, "If this little brother does not mind, you can also accompany my 2 disciples after entering so they can look after each other." Ling Tai Su already had a plan in mind, but he still turned his eyes to Yang Kai and asked, "What do you think?" Yang Kai nodded indifferently. "You can go in together, but there's no need for companionship." None of them were familiar with each other, and although this Chen Shui Shu and Su Xiaoyu looked good, one may know a person for a long time without understanding their true nature. What's more, even if Yang Kai trusted these 2, whether they believed him or not was another matter. Zhuo Wen's words were just polite words. How could he take them seriously? Chapter 218. Since this boy has no objections, Brother Zhuo, please go ahead. Ling Tai Su said to Zhuo Wen. Zhuo Wen couldn't help but sigh in relief and cupped his fists with a smile. "Many thanks, Brother Ling. Brother Zhuo is too polite." Ling Tai Su nodded lightly. "In fact, the 2 of us should also thank Brother Zhuo for helping us out." In fact, the addition of the 3 from the Reflecting Moon sect was only beneficial to Ling Tai Su and Yang Kai. After all, only the 2 of them occupied this place. Now that more and more forces were coming, they might encounter some existences that they couldn't afford to provoke and snatch this place away. With the addition of Zhuo Wen, the situation was different. The 2 immediately became 5 people with 2 experts guarding them. Even if someone had ideas about this place, they would have to weigh their own limits. Zhuo Wen heard the implication and felt comfortable, laughing loudly as he called his 2 disciples to sit down cross-legged. Although this was the first time Ling Tai Su and Zhuo Wen had met, they were both old and experienced, so after a few words, they were already quite familiar with each other. Because Ling Tai Su had made things convenient, Zhuo Wen intended to return the favor, revealing a lot of information about this place. Ling Tai Su happened to lack these things. He had come here 50 years ago, and after 50 years, he didn't know if the place had changed, so he naturally wanted to inquire about it. Zhuo Wen also told him everything he knew. Yang Kai listened carefully. Through the conversation between the two, Yang Kai learned that this place was first discovered by a few cultivator who came to Netherworld Mountain, and as time passed, more and more people knew about it. But generally speaking, those who knew about this place would guard it as a secret, not wantonly spreading it. So, after hundreds of years, even if more people knew about this place. But it wasn't to the point where the whole world knew about it. This was still the case even now. There were many sects in the Great Han Dynasty, and how many were there? However, the number of forces surrounding the lakeside was less than a tenth of the total. If the situation escalated to the point where the entire world knew about it, if the whole world knew about this place, there would be a bloody battle every 10 years. Originally, this situation would continue and everyone wouldn't have to fight for a place. But since the opening of this place 30 years ago, more and more forces knew about its existence. Zhuowen sighed. What happened? Ling Tai Su asked thoughtfully. That's because some of the disciples who went into the isolated lands to train had obtained a great treasure. Zhuowen said in a low voice. With a solemn expression, he paused for a moment before continuing. Someone obtained a few drops of brilliant flame liquid from there. Ling Tai Su was slightly moved. Is it the supreme treasure used to refine yuan qi? Zhuowen nodded. That's right. As soon as the 3 words brilliant flame liquid came out, Chen Shueshu and Su Xiaoyu couldn't help breathing slightly faster. Obviously, they knew how precious this treasure was. On the other hand, Yang Kai's expression remained calm, without the slightest change. Zhuowen saw Yang Kai's expression. He thought to himself that this kid was probably a little ignorant and inexperienced. Otherwise, how could he not have any reaction? How could he have known that although Yang Kai had never heard of the brilliant flame liquid before, Ling Tai Su's words were enough to make him realize the preciousness of this thing? Yang Kai already had the 9th Yin Yuan condensing dew sealed inside his unyielding golden skeleton. Once he broke through to the Yuan Qi boundary, he would be able to absorb it and help him transform his Yuan Qi into Yuan Qi, so he didn't care too much about this brilliant flame liquid. Good things were generally fought over by countless people. Since he already had the 9th Yin Yuan condensing dew, there was no need for him to pay attention to this brilliant flame liquid. Zhuowen lightly coughed and continued, if it was just the brilliant flame liquid, then it would have been crazy. It wasn't enough to drive people crazy. However, when that isolated world opened, not only did someone obtain the precious brilliant flame liquid, but someone also obtained the soul cleansing dew. Ling Tai Su was once again moved. Yang Kai was finally curious, what does the soul cleansing dew do? Zhuowen smiled lightly. He carefully explained, the brilliant flame liquid can help a cultivator refine their yuan qi, making their yuan qi more pure, while the soul cleansing dew can help a cultivator open their knowledge see and cultivate their divine sense. When a cultivator breaks through to the immortal ascension boundary from the yuan qi boundary, with the help of a single drop of the soul cleansing dew, opening their knowledge see is easy. There is no obstruction. If a cultivator above the immortal ascension boundary uses the soul cleansing dew, a single drop can expand their knowledge see. Their divine sense becomes tough, comparable to many years of bitter cultivation. Yang Kai nodded slightly. Ling Tai Su said, so that's how it is, no wonder there are so many people. Even many separation and reunion boundary youngsters are willing to take the risk. 50 years ago, no separation and reunion boundary cultivator dared to enter. At first, Ling Tai Su thought that the world had changed, and that the young people of today were more daring, but he didn't expect there to be such a reason. A separation and reunion boundary cultivator only had 2 tasks. One was to increase their realm, and the second was to prepare for the transformation of Yuan Qi into Yuan Qi. The brilliant flame liquid naturally had a great attraction to a separation and reunion boundary cultivator. Similarly, a Yuan Qi cultivator also had 2 tasks. One was to increase their realm, and the second was to open their knowledge see and cultivate their divine sense. Whether it was the brilliant flame liquid or the soul cleansing dew, they both wanted it. This was why so many people had come. Yang Kai was also quite excited. He didn't care about the brilliant flame liquid, but the soul cleansing dew really made him excited. The old demon had once said that his 5-colored soul-warming lotus needed to absorb a lot of soul-nourishing precious treasures in order to grow to 7 colors. This soul-cleansing dew was obviously one of them, and it was one of the most effective. If he could obtain some and consume it, it would be of great help to both his soul-warming lotus and himself. After talking about this, the 2 old men went back to chatting, leaving the 3 young people bored to death. Chen Shueshu and Su Xiaoyu were much better off than Yang Kai. After all, the 2 of them came from the same place and seemed to be a couple, so their eyes were filled with deep affection as they secretly cast flirtatious glances at each other. As if he was aware of Yang Kai's embarrassment, Chen Shueshu smiled at him and cupped his fists. "May I ask junior brother's name?" Yang Kai smiled. "This humble one's surname is Yang." Yang. Chen Shueshu's eyelids twitched, apparently thinking of the central capital's Yang family, but immediately feeling that it was unlikely, he didn't care much. "Junior brother Yang, it seems you don't know much about this place." Chen Shueshu intended to draw the relationship between them closer, so naturally he had to find something to talk about. "And I was brought here in a daze." Yang Kai nodded. Su Xiaoyu couldn't help laughing. "Your sect master is right next to you. Be careful he doesn't punish you." Chen Shueshu also smiled. "If junior brother Yang doesn't mind, if there's anything you don't understand, this brother can help you." Listening to him say this, Yang Kai really did have a question he wanted to ask. Why are these forces all separated by a few dozen meters? Is there some kind of special pattern that allows them to choose their own positions? Chen Shueshu nodded. This brother just happens to know a thing or two. Saying so, he stood up and walked over to the lakeside, beckoning to Yang Kai and pointing down. "Junior brother Yang, please take a look." Following the direction of his finger, Yang Kai suddenly saw a patch of green duckweed near the lakeside, but this patch of duckweed was not the same as ordinary duckweed. It was about the size of a palm, verdant, and had bright green veins. Where there is duckweed, that's the position they chose. Yang Kai looked up and found that in front of each of these forces there was indeed a patch of duckweed. "Junior brother Yang, don't underestimate this patch of duckweed. It is the ship that will carry us to that isolated world." Chen Shueshu said, "Anyone who wants to enter must first set foot on this patch of duckweed. Without this patch of duckweed, no matter how strong one is, they will not be able to enter. Moreover, there is something strange about this lake. It is impossible to fly above it, and this patch of duckweed cannot carry masters above the immortal ascension boundary. Therefore, the highest cultivator who enters this place is only Yuan Qi boundary." Yang Kai felt relieved and nodded seriously, becoming more and more humble as he consulted Chen Shueshu. Su Xiaoyu also interjected from time to time, making the atmosphere very harmonious. When night fell, Zhou Wen's expression suddenly became dignified and he quickly said, "It's about to begin." As soon as his voice fell, all the cultivators around the lake began to move. Suddenly, a brilliant light burst out from the bottom of the lake, illuminating the entire lake in a brilliant glow, creating a magnificent scene. Immediately, a strange and heavy aura descended. Even immortal ascension boundary masters seemed to be unable to bear the pressure of this aura, all of them acting as if they were facing a great enemy, their faces heavy as they circulated their secret arts to resist. The duckweed on the lakeside began to spin and instantly grew larger, growing to more than 10 meters in length before slowly stopping. After the duckweed stabilized, Ling Tai Su and Zhou Wen both shouted at the same time, "Go up!" Yang Kai and the 2 reflecting moon sect disciples did not hesitate and jumped onto the duckweed one after another. No wonder Zhou Wen had said before that the duckweed could only carry 4 people, and this was indeed the case. Now that 3 people were standing on it, there was only a small space left. If one more person came up, it would be full. Zhou Wen solemnly exhorted Chen Shueshu and Su Xiaoyu, telling them to be careful inside and not easily get into disputes with others. The 2 of them nodded repeatedly. Ling Tai Su also reminded Yang Kai, "If anyone provokes you, kill them. Don't be soft-hearted, but don't take the initiative to provoke others." Yang Kai nodded. "Right, you don't have to worry about the things in your secluded home. This old master will take care of them for you. As for that little girl Su Yan, this old master will also help you look after her." Yang Kai's face turned bright red. He had not expected that the matter between him and Su Yan would not be hidden from Ling Tai Su. On top of the duckweed, Su Xiaoyu glanced at Yang Kai meaningfully and giggled. About the time it would take to drink a cup of tea, the duckweed under their feet suddenly began to move, like a big ship sailing through the waves, carrying the three of them steadily towards the center of the lake, its speed increasing with each passing moment. Looking around in all directions, there were duckweed and many people standing on top of it. Many of these cultivators were sneering, looking around with malicious intent. Yang Kai also saw the Tianlang dynasty disciples, whether they were men or women, all of them had fierce looks in their eyes, like beasts ready to devour their prey. Yang Kai also saw the three Ghost King Valley disciples, Jin Hao once again making a throat-slitting gesture towards Yang Kai. As the duckweed continued to move forward, a huge whirlpool suddenly appeared in the middle of the lake, and all the people who were riding on the duckweed fell into it without any mental preparation. A series of screams rang out, but they quickly disappeared. The surrounding scenery changed, and when Kai Yang came back to his senses, he found himself in an unfamiliar environment. Chapter 219. Day and night were indistinguishable, yin and yang were chaotic, and the heavens and earth were chaotic. This was the most obvious feature of this place. "We're in," Su Xiaoyu said excitedly. Chen Shueshu and Yang Kai both hurriedly looked around vigilantly, and after confirming that there was no danger around, they couldn't help breathing a sigh of relief. This isolated world occupied a very large area, and if one didn't come in on the same duckweed, they wouldn't appear together. Yang Kai had also learned about this before, and now that he had seen it, he found it to be true. Yang Kai quietly moved away from Chen Shueshu and Su Xiaoyu, and although it wasn't too obvious, Chen Shueshu was still able to see through his intentions. Chen Shueshu didn't mind, simply smiling as he turned to Yang Kai and asked, "Junior brother Yang, would you like to act together with us? We can take care of each other." Yang Kai slowly shook his head and cupped his fists. "Thank you for your kindness, but I want to try alone." Chen Shueshu nodded lightly and didn't insist. "Then junior brother Yang, be careful. Until we meet again." Saying so, Yang Kai turned around and used his movement skill to quickly depart. Why did he run so fast? It's not like we're going to eat him. Su Xiaoyu pursed her thin red lips, somewhat dissatisfied with Yang Kai's vigilance. Chen Shueshu chuckled and patted Su Xiaoyu's head. "That's what he's afraid of. But we didn't intend to harm him." Su Xiaoyu said somewhat angrily, "That person's strength is so low, I think he'll die quickly." Chen Shueshu shook his head seriously. "Not necessarily. That person is very cautious and careful. This kind of person generally lives a long time. Also, I always feel like there's something strange about him." "What's strange about him?" Su Xiaoyu blinked her big eyes in confusion. "Only a separation and reunion boundary third-stage cultivator daring to come here. If he's not tired of living, then he must have some kind of backing." "You mean, I'm afraid this person has some kind of extraordinary means, otherwise his master wouldn't have let him come here for life experience. Hey, who can enter this place without some kind of means? We should also be careful and try not to get into conflict with others." After Yang Kai separated from the two people from the Reflecting Moon sect, he used his footwork to the fullest and ran for more than 10 miles in a row. Along the way, he changed directions several times before suddenly turning around and flying to a large tree. He vigilantly observed his surroundings. It wasn't that he was measuring the heart of a gentleman with his own mean measure, but there was nothing wrong with being a little more careful. Moreover, this was also a test to see if Chen Shueshu and Su Xiaoyu were the same on the surface, or if they were just hypocrites. After waiting in the tree for a long time, Yang Kai didn't find any traces of people following him. At that moment, he was sure that the two of them had no ill intentions towards him. All of them had the strength of Yuan Qi state. He was definitely a genius in the Reflecting Moon sect, so if he really wanted to kill him, he wouldn't have waited until now. Ling Tai Su had said this before. If you meet someone you can really trust, you might as well join forces with them. Now, Chen Shueshu and Su Xiaoyu were on Yang Kai's trusted list. If we are fated to meet again next time. Yang Kai didn't mind acting with them. Hiding in the treetops, Yang Kai first tried to summon his 2 killing artifacts, but after some effort, he found that he really couldn't summon them here, as if they were really sealed inside his body. "Old demon," Yang Kai called out. "Old servant is here." The old demon quickly replied. "Can you use the soul breaker all?" "Sorry to disappoint, young master, I can't use it." Yang Kai secretly cursed this damned place. Even the soul breaker all, an artifact that didn't belong to him, was sealed. Without the soul breaker all, the old demon couldn't display any combat effectiveness, so this time it seemed he could only rely on his own strength. Fortunately, Ling Tai Su had given Yang Kai a universe bag before. There were a lot of good things inside. Before, Yang Kai hadn't had time to investigate, but now he finally had some free time. Taking out the small cloth bag from his chest, Yang Kai unsealed it and reached inside, immediately grabbing a lot of things. There were more than a dozen bottles of pills inside, most of which were used for healing, but there were also a few bottles of Yang attribute pills. This made Yang Kai very happy. Yang Kai secretly praised his grandmaster for treating him well. With these bottles of pills, he didn't need to worry about running out of Yang liquid. In addition to the pills, Yang Kai also found a dozen sets of clean clothes and a long sword. This long sword wasn't an artifact. It was just a weapon forged from fine steel, so it could be used in this place. However, Yang Kai hadn't learned any sword skills or martial skills. It was better to use it to fight with his bare hands. With his current strength, a long sword wouldn't be able to increase Yang Kai's combat effectiveness in the slightest. After carefully putting away all the things, Yang Kai jumped down from the tree, rubbed his palms together, and excitedly embarked on his training journey. After an hour, Yang Kai encountered a 4th-grade monster beast. After using some methods to kill it, he quietly stood in place and waited. Sure enough, as he heard, when the monster beast died, Yang Kai clearly felt that its energy and flesh essence were gathering in a certain place in the air. Almost visible to the naked eye, the monster beast's body slowly dried up and sunk in, but the red energy that came out of its body grew more and more. The red light flashed, and after waiting for a while, a bright red bead about the size of a pea condensed. Yang Kai's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast. The moment it formed, he grabbed it in his hand and felt it with his heart. He found that this blood bead contained a very strange energy. The energy wasn't too much, after all, it was only a 4th-grade monster beast, but it wasn't disappointing. He didn't know what kind of laws of heaven and earth were hidden in this world, but this kind of thing would happen after a living thing died. After putting away the blood bead, he lowered his head to look at the monster beast. He saw that the monster beast's body had completely turned into a pile of fine powder. Its essence was gone, and only dross was left. Yang Kai didn't know how much of an improvement this blood bead could bring to him. He was faintly looking forward to it, but it was obviously not a good time to refine and absorb it. With the harvest, Yang Kai's fighting spirit was high, and his footsteps became lighter and lighter. This world was indeed a good place for a separation and reunion Yuan Qi cultivator to train. Yang Kai had only been here for a day, but he had already killed 5 or 6 monster beasts that were alone. They were all 3rd or 4th grade. He didn't spend much Yuan Qi, but the harvest was quite rich. The blood bead given by a 3rd-grade monster beast was much smaller than that of a 4th-grade one. It was obvious that the energy was insufficient. He also encountered a 5th-grade monster beast. Yang Kai hesitated for a long time before he stopped himself from killing it. A 5th-grade monster beast was equivalent to a Yuan Qi cultivator. Even if Yang Kai was lucky enough to kill it, he would have to use all his strength and be prepared to be injured. So unless it was absolutely necessary, Yang Kai didn't want to fight with a 5th-grade monster beast. For 3 days in a row, Yang Kai killed the monster beast without any worries. When he was tired, he would find a relatively safe place to rest, recover his strength, and then continue hunting. In these 3 days, he didn't encounter a single person. It was no wonder that so many separation and reunion cultivators dared to come here. If it continued like this, even a cultivator at the Qi transformation stage wouldn't have to worry about anything, except that he had to be careful of the monster beast. 3 days later, Yang Kai was hiding in a jungle like a cat, secretly observing the situation in front of him. There were 2 4th-grade monster beast phantom lightning wolves in front of him. A 4th-grade monster beast was equivalent to a cultivator at the separation and reunion stage, which was equivalent to Yang Kai's current stage. If the 2 of them attacked together, Yang Kai might have some trouble dealing with them. But after thinking carefully for a long time, Yang Kai decided to take action. The monster beast he could deal with now was at most 4th grade. If he encountered 2 at once, there was no reason to give up. After making up his mind, Yang Kai rushed out of his hiding place and quickly approached the 2 phantom lightning wolves. Originally, Yang Kai's whole mind was focused on the 2 monster beast, but who would have thought that halfway through he would suddenly see traces of a person's shadow flashing not far from him from the corner of his eyes. His heart sinking, Yang Kai quickly glanced around and sure enough, about 1,000 meters away, there was a man in dark red robes hurriedly hiding himself. Thinking quickly, Yang Kai understood everything that had happened. The other person was obviously observing the 2 phantom lightning wolves in secret, just like him, but didn't find any traces of the other person. But coincidentally, he and the person on the other side had chosen to attack at the same time. Maybe it was because his speed was faster, so when he ran out, the other person had just appeared. And at this time, the other person had also discovered him, so he quickly hid back, hiding his body. But that person's clothes were too conspicuous, revealing some flaws. Now that it was too late to retreat, the 2 phantom lightning wolves fixed their eyes on Yang Kai. They bared their fangs and rushed over without hesitation. Yang Kai complained in his heart. While thinking about how to deal with the situation of the mantis stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind, he also thought about the identity of the person on the other side. After a while, Yang Kai made up his mind and quickened his pace. He pretended not to know anything and charged toward the 2 phantom lightning wolves. The 2 4th-grade monster beasts were as fast as the wind, and electric arcs flickered on their bodies. As they ran, they separated into 2 groups, one on the left and one on the right. In the blink of an eye, they arrived in front of Yang Kai. The 2 monster beasts were obviously very experienced in hunting. They attacked from the left and right, and the gap between their attacks was perfect. Yang Kai hurriedly moved to the side, avoiding the bite of one of the phantom lightning wolves. However, the other one bit his shoulder. A current flowed through his body, and Yang Kai couldn't help but tremble a few times. He quickly circulated his yuan qi to dissolve the current. His muscles tightened, and he swept a punch at the phantom lightning wolf's cheek. Before it tore off his flesh, he sent it flying. The phantom lightning wolf let out a miserable cry and rolled a few times on the ground. Yang Kai didn't use his full strength in this attack, so he didn't hurt it much. After landing on the ground, the 2 phantom lightning wolves joined forces again, one on the top and one on the bottom. They roared and pounced toward him. Yang Kai rolled up his leg and kicked the stomach of the phantom lightning wolf below him, sending it flying. He pushed the other phantom lightning wolf with both of his palms, blocking its attack. While the 2 monster beasts were still in a daze, Yang Kai bravely pounced on them, and the 2 phantom lightning wolves were locked in a fierce battle. In fact, if Yang Kai had used all of his abilities, he wouldn't have had such a hard time. However, since he knew that someone was spying on him, he had to put on a show and take precautions. Chapter 220. The battle with the 2 illusion lightning wolves could be described as extremely difficult and dangerous. Relying only on his separation and reunion boundary 3rd stage cultivation and not daring to reveal all of his means, Yang Kai repeatedly fell into danger during the battle, but every time he miraculously turned the situation around. It was as if he was walking on a tightrope, the slightest mistake and he would be torn to pieces by these 2 monster beasts. Little by little, the momentum of the 2 monster beasts was worn down. Again and again, it took nearly an hour for Yang Kai to kill them one by one. His body was covered in blood, some from the illusion lightning wolves, some from himself. There were at least 7 or 8 wounds on his body, all caused by the 2 monster beasts. There was even a wound where some flesh had been torn off. The pain was excruciating, making him look very distressed. These wounds were not fake, they were real injuries. A fourth-order monster beast was equivalent to a separation and reunion boundary cultivator. Yang Kai was able to suppress 2 opponents to this extent. He should be proud of himself. However, the hidden person was quite patient. When Yang Kai was fighting with the illusion lightning wolves, he never showed up even until now. Yang Kai gasped for breath, quietly glanced over, then sat on the ground and assumed a posture of circulating his qi, waiting for the blood beads of the 2 illusion lightning wolves to condense. Perhaps Yang Kai's acting was too realistic. The hidden person finally made a move after confirming that there was no danger around. The rustling of footsteps approached, not hiding at all. Yang Kai suddenly opened his eyes, a cold light flashing in them. Looking up, he saw not far in front of him, there were 3 figures arrogantly walking towards him. All 3 were men, wearing dark red robes, looking very ostentatious. The leading man laughed unscrupulously. His laughter was loud and harsh, looking at Yang Kai with a playful expression. Yang Kai timely showed a look of panic, his eyes filled with hatred and annoyance, slowly getting up. He was on guard. The 3 of them exchanged glances, then circled around and surrounded him. What is the meaning of this? Yang Kai licked his dry lips and asked in a deep voice. This small, unintentional action made him even more terrified. What an interesting question. The man who laughed before looked at Yang Kai contemptuously. Can't you see what we mean? Yang Kai frowned and said, 2 blood beads. A few of his friends wanted it. Just take it and don't make things difficult for me. The man laughed coldly. What are 2 blood beads? Don't you know that the blood beads formed after a cultivator's death? Was the quality and level much higher than that of monster beast? Blood beads, we want your life. We want it too. Yang Kai's face darkened. Friends, you've gone too far. I am a High Heaven Pavilion disciple. If you kill me, my master will not let this matter rest. Haha. When the man heard this, he couldn't help but laugh again. If we were outside, I'm afraid we would have some scruples, but what kind of place is this? If you die here, no one will know that it was us who killed you. As soon as the man's voice fell, the panic on Yang Kai's face suddenly disappeared. He became ruthless and murderous, his yuan qi fiercely gushing out. He suddenly turned around, and a thin blade appeared in his right hand. He aimed at the neck of one of the men who had sneaked up behind him and didn't have time to make a move. These 3 people could be considered cautious. When they surrounded Yang Kai, they didn't immediately make a move. After all, their strength wasn't very high, and they hadn't reached yuan qi. Instead, one of them spoke to attract Yang Kai's attention, while the other one sneaked up to attack. Unexpectedly, Yang Kai had already seen through their actions. He just pretended not to know and beat them at their own game. When the cultivator behind him was close enough, then he suddenly attacked. The sudden attack made the 3 people's faces change color. The man behind Yang Kai didn't even have time to react. The blood-red blade cut through his neck, and he felt a burning sensation. Immediately, a warm liquid rushed out uncontrollably. Yang Kai was as fast as the wind. After the blade made of yang liquid had cut through the man's neck, he crossed his feet and used his self-created footwork. Like a tiger hunting a leopard, he pounced in front of the second man. This person hurriedly counterattacked, and the sound of metal clashing rang out from his fist. His entire fist became golden and dazzling, and his momentum was heavy. Yang Kai directly threw the blade made of yang liquid at the man's fist. The man screamed as the blade stabbed into his fist. Blood flowed from his fist. While he was screaming in pain, Yang Kai bent down and fiercely punched him in the stomach. The yuan qi poured in like 3 waves. The man's face paled. Accompanied by 3 muffled bangs, he spat out blood and staggered back. Yang Kai's body was like a swallow, graceful and light. He jumped and flew to the man's shoulder. His legs clamped down on the man's head, and his body suddenly turned half a circle. With a crack, the second cultivator's neck was broken. In the battle that broke out in a flash, 2 of the 3 people were killed, and the remaining one was stunned. It wasn't until Yang Kai floated down from the air that he regained his senses. The cultivator's face was aghast. The sudden change shocked him, and Yang Kai's ruthless and cruel attack made him tremble in fear. Laughing loudly, Yang Kai said, "Friend, next time before you talk big, you should consider whether you have enough weight. Otherwise, you'll cut your own tongue." Looking at Yang Kai, who was covered in blood, and feeling the violent and ferocious fluctuation of Yuan Qi, the man's face instantly turned pale. By now, how could he not see that Yang Kai hadn't used his full strength in the battle with the two phantom lightning wolves? With his skills and surging Yuan Qi, if he really wanted to kill those two monster beasts, he wouldn't even need the time it takes to burn a stick of incense. However, he fought for about 2 hours. It was obvious that he was putting on a show for the three of them. "So you already knew that we were hiding?" The man's face suddenly turned cold. His two companions were killed in an instant. Although he was frightened, it also aroused his murderous intent and anger. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. "You guys have a good plan, why can't I take advantage of it?" Yang Kai laughed coldly. "You deserve to die." The man roared again and again, fiercely activating his Yuan Qi. A large golden seal suddenly appeared in front of him. He should have used some kind of martial skill, and this martial skill was definitely not a low-level one. Yang Kai's expression was cold. He no longer held back and activated the unyielding will. The already violent Yuan Qi became even more violent. His aura was strange and unchanging, and his evil aura was awe-inspiring. His killing intent was limitless. The strength of peak separation and reunion boundary. The unyielding will had always been Yang Kai's trump card. Normally, he wouldn't use it unless necessary, so as to avoid being seen through and exposing his trump card. However, in this place, facing this kind of enemy, Yang Kai didn't want to hide anything. As long as he killed them all, there wouldn't be any worries in the future. Therefore, he could rest assured and boldly display his strongest strength to his heart's content. The opposite enemy's expression was once again aghast. Yang Kai's sudden increase in strength had caught him off guard, but there was no turning back. Holding the golden seal in one hand, he roared and attacked Yang Kai. Yang Kai wasn't afraid, his hand forming a claw, he grabbed the seal. His body shook slightly. After all, this was a martial skill, so it wasn't easy to block it. His opponent's mouth curled into a grin as he pushed his Yuan Qi even more fiercely. The true Yang Yuan Qi in Yang Kai's body also suddenly burst out. The hot Yuan Qi poured into the seal, and within a moment, a crackling sound could be heard. Cracks began to appear on the seal as a result of the heat. The purity and density of Yang Kai's true Yang Yuan Qi was no worse than an ordinary Yuan Qi cultivator. His opponent was only at the separation and reunion boundary 8th stage. His Yuan Qi hadn't been transformed into Yuan Qi yet. How could he be a match for Yang Kai? The cracking sounds continued without end. The opponent's face was pale, and he felt that something was wrong. He quickly said, "Friend, please be merciful. I am a disciple of the Golden Light Palace. I had eyes but failed to see before, so I offended you. Friend, master, please forgive this lowly one." Yang Kai sneered, the madness and bloodthirst in his eyes becoming stronger. "I know you are a disciple of the Golden Light Palace." It was precisely because he knew this that Yang Kai had no qualms about putting on a show to lure the three of them out. If they weren't wearing dark red clothes that exposed their identity, Yang Kai would definitely not take such a risk. The Golden Light Palace was only a third-class force. 3 of their disciples came this time, and they were all only at the separation and reunion boundary. This was something Ling Tai Su had told Kai Yang when they were at the lake. The sky was filled with golden light, and the seal of the Golden Light Palace disciple completely exploded. At this moment he suddenly launched an attack. A sharp blade popped out of his sleeve, like a snake coming out of its hole, and went straight for Yang Kai's throat. His begging for mercy just now was just a pretense. His 2 junior brothers were killed, and the hatred between him and Yang Kai was irreconcilable. But this sharp blade didn't hurt Yang Kai. Halfway through, his movement stopped, and he looked down at his chest, only to see that Yang Kai's hand was inserted into his heart. His heart beat fiercely, and then there was no more movement. Yang Kai pulled out his hand, and blood spurted out. his expression was indifferent. He killed 3 people in one battle, all of whom were separation and reunion boundary 7th or 8th stage cultivator, and he didn't feel any pressure at all. Defeating the strong with the weak, defeating the many with the few, Kai Yang had a new understanding of his true strength. After a while, the yuan qi and flesh essence of the 3 golden light palace cultivator condensed into blood beads. Yang Kai stepped forward and collected them. He couldn't help but be surprised to find that these 3 blood beads were much bigger than the ones he had obtained before. They were the size of a thumbnail. The blood bead of a 4th stage monster beast was only the size of a pea, but the blood bead of a separation and reunion boundary cultivator was so many times bigger. Without time to investigate carefully, Yang Kai collected the blood beads of the 2 phantom lightning wolves, and then searched the 3 of them for valuables, and hurriedly left the place. After a stick of incense, many monster beasts had gathered in this place. The smell of blood in the air was the light that led them here. At this moment, Yang Kai was more than 10 miles away. Yang Kai had collected a lot of blood beads these days, so he wanted to find a safe place to refine and absorb them. Only in this way could his strength be improved, and he could deal with more powerful monster beasts and enemies. Welcome to Legends of Cultivation audiobooks, where we bring ancient fantasy to life through storytelling. Follow the rise of heroes who defy fate, unlock mystical powers, and battle across celestial realms. Our audiobooks are crafted for fans of Chinese cultivation novels, filled with battles, breakthroughs, and legendary artifacts. Subscribe and be part of an unforgettable journey into the realm of immortality.